not.
No, we should.
I'll suggest one.
Okay, so welcome you guys to today's Business Builders Brown Bag Lunch, sponsored by the Reading Downtown Association, and it's my pleasure today to welcome Teresa Cates. So going to talk to us about how to better work with your accountant, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks
for being here.
Okay. Thank you to the Reading Downtown Association for inviting me today. And Barbie invited me. Barbie and I went to Kingsburg High School together. And I would also like to thank the Shin family for hosting us here in this beautiful spot, and to Liam and Clara for helping set up today. I'm here today. I don't have a PowerPoint because basically I'm old, and but I will try to keep you awake. Hopefully, I know you probably all like accountant, sleeper, but hopefully it won't be that bad. I'll watch if I see you nodding off and try to speed it up a little bit. Barbie asked me to talk about the things that might help you communicate with your accountant, and I think that's really a good topic. There are some clients that I don't see year after year. They just drop off their information, and that works great, but then they'll come in and they'll go, why didn't you tell me this? Because my parents are aging, and that's really important. It's like, I don't know your parents are aging. I don't follow you on Facebook, and we go to different churches, so I'm not in your circle. So every once in a while, you do need to take a few minutes, I think, and communicate with your tax person, your CPA, and let them know the things that are going on in your life, because they might have some helpful things. A little bit about myself. I worked for a CPA in Kingsburg for 25 years, and then about 7 years ago I opened up my own office, and I know some of you are self-employed, and some mornings we ask ourselves, what in the heck are we thinking? Because being self-employed can be very painful sometimes, and it does have its benefits. And they say, oh, well, you can just pick and choose and you can come and go as you please. That's a lie. That's a fallacy. There's no come and go. You have to be there when your people are looking for you. And so, you know, while there are benefits, that's not always one of them, I don't think. reason is, and I know you've all done this, whether you will admit it or not, is you have gone out to buy something and you paid cash and that something was $10, okay? If you throw that receipt away, that hammer you just bought or that item you just bought just cost you $15. And you would not have gone in that store and paid $15 for it, but by throwing that receipt away, you just paid $15 for it because you did not deduct that $10 that you paid for that item, okay? And so you have to be careful.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I buy a lot of things online and have them shipped to us, and the receipts come digitally. Is it okay to keep those in my email, or do I need to print them?
No, you do not have to print those out. The digital receipt is just fine. Yes, sir. So that you can get to it if you need it, and it does get recorded in your bookkeeping somewhere. So yes, a digital image. The question was if the digital image of a receipt is okay in your email. Absolutely, that's perfectly fine. You can print it out if you need it. Okay. A lot of people keep everything scanned now. That's wonderful. If you have a copier accessible, when you've gone out and paid cash for something and you bring that receipt in, if a copier is accessible or a scanner, get in the habit of doing that. Those thermal receipts disappear after 3 years. They're blank. And the IRS doesn't audit you for 2 or 3 years down the road. So then you go out, I have all my receipts, and look, they're all blank. Okay, or they're black because they were on the dashboard of the car and they turned black. And you've all seen those. They turn black. Okay, so protect yourself. If it's one of those little scanners you see in the airport, airplane magazines that says you can, meet scan or whatever it's called, or a copier. I'm very spoiled because I have girls in my office. I hand them the receipt, they copy it. I have access to those things. Not everybody does, and I understand that. But come up with a system that works for you.
And those little machines do work just fine?
They work fine for a small business. If you're getting into multiple copies, it takes too much time, and you won't do it. And if you're not going to do it, don't waste your time. Find a system that works for you, okay? What happens also with a lot of self-employed people is that you're college educated or you went to business school. Andrew here has a master's in business, okay? But maybe Andrew doesn't like bookkeeping or doesn't like all the paperwork and doesn't like paying bills, and that's fine, but he needs to realize that if he's not going to do it, he needs to bring somebody in. And where the problem comes in is Andrew's college educated, and he says, well, I can do it, I'm able, I know how, and then the stack grows, and the stack grows, and the stack grows, and it becomes a monster, and then finally Andrew gets mad, has a fight with his wife, comes in, spends 2 or 3 days going through all this paperwork. Had Andrew hired somebody.
All the way through the night.
Do you understand? Am I lying, Andrew?
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Does anybody else have this
Except
issue?
for the pile.
For a pile set? You're in your home, so maybe but the thing I had. The piles are there. If you had someone come in 2 or 3 hours a week, it would take them half the time it would take you. Okay, maybe 2 or 3 hours a month. Andrew, I know, can go take enough pictures and do enough business to pay for that bookkeeping service or that freelance bookkeeper to come in and have extra money on top of it. But Andrew puts pressure on himself because I'm able to do it, I should do it, okay? I realize that, but you can go out in your business and you can sell enough, or maybe you can fix up your window or do a new display or bring in some stock that's not there, or maybe you have a project that you've been putting off that you could do and get paid for and make enough money to pay a bookkeeper, pay somebody to help you, and have money left over. Exactly. Okay. So don't put that kind of pressure on yourself that you have to do the books yourself just because you know how. Have somebody do it. Take that pressure off you, and you will be amazed when you have somebody coming in regularly. It takes so much pressure off of you. And if you can pay to take that pressure off of you, you can pay a lot for it. So pay a little bit. Pay a little bit and get your bookkeeping done. Okay? And I'm not saying this because I need more business. I don't. I'm not even taking new clients. Okay? So, but there's a lot of freelance people out there that will come in, so you don't have to take your papers somewhere. We have people that drop stuff off. We have a mail slot in our door once a month. They come in with the envelope and they just throw it through the door. We're not even there. We don't even see them. They're driving by. They throw it in. Works out great. It doesn't take up any of their time. Then we send them a report once a month. Here's where you're at. They never have to wonder where they're at. And then at tax time, everything's done. There's not, oh my gosh, I have to take a whole week now and get my tax stuff ready to give to my accountant. Do any of you do that? It's okay. You can raise your hand.
Yeah.
It's okay. A lot of self-employeds do, because once again, we think we have to cut costs, we have to save money, and we have to do. Well, if I don't do my own paperwork, I don't have a handle on it, and I don't know what I paid for anything, and I don't know. You can look at a report. Somebody can print you a report. You can glance at it for 10 minutes, and you'll see immediately something that was wrong. You'll see it immediately, something that was overpaid, underpaid, skipped, paid twice. You'll see it immediately. You don't have to look at every receipt. Or maybe you initial every receipt before it gets paid. Just glance at it, initial it, and leave it for that bookkeeper to come in.
I've always wondered about that. What's the break-in period for I mean, having a bookkeeping service or somebody come in? How will they know what categories my expenses fall into and things like that?
You will tell them once, and they will know it after that.
They'll just know.
The first time they come in, you might have to write a description because, I mean, when I come into a new client, I know what PG&E is. I know what the telephone company is, but I might not know what your different photography items are. And those you might have to tell me once. But if I'm using QuickBooks, the next time I type in that name, the description pops up.
Yes.
So you just have to tell them once. It should be relatively simple. And if they have other photography clients, you'll have to tell them very little. So that's a good question.
QuickBooks.
Yes, sir.
Would you recommend that for someone to do?
I do recommend QuickBooks. It's not the only way to do things. Okay. The best way to do it is what you are comfortable with. We use QuickBooks in my office. It works out nice because other people use it. We can actually access their books at their house, get a printout on my office, or they can bring in one of those little flash drives and drop it off, and then I can load it on my machine and take a look at their books, make suggestions. I have some people that use a spreadsheet. They're comfortable with a spreadsheet. It works for them. I would never suggest that they use QuickBooks because this works for them, and they're comfortable, and they'll do it. I can say, well, if you're going to be my client, you have to do QuickBooks, and you're never going to do it. Who did that help? Okay.
So that helps the accountant also.
It helps your accountant also.
And I'm going to put in information every day instead of waiting until it piles up.
Until it all piles up. And QuickBooks is very forgiving. QuickBooks is, well, I might do something wrong. That's okay. You can delete, edit. QuickBooks is so forgiving. It's wonderful. So it's not like you're going to do one little thing that's going to mess up the whole QuickBooks, okay? Because just about everything in QuickBooks is fixable. QuickBooks isn't the perfect program, but it's used. It's set up to be easy to use and for a lot of people to use, no matter what kind of business.
I have a copy of it back here.
Oh, the QuickBooks, okay.
You can do it real simple or you can do everything.
Right. Yeah. We use probably the tip of the iceberg in QuickBooks for the most of us.
Was that
we
right?
write checks and we make deposits and we keep.
Is there different programs like the
Yes, there are.
starter?
Yes, sir. There's point of sale actually programs. There's construction programs for QuickBooks. There's a lot of specialties. You can have them do all your payroll. You just fit in the hours and they do everything, or you can do part of it yourself and have your accountant do part of it, or you can have the person doing your
All
payroll.
our payment systems too.
Yeah.
They have a lot.
Although we used that for a couple of years, we used that payment system, and we weren't. I mean, their rates were a little bit higher than what we were able to find elsewhere. And we switched to a different receivables program. So there was a different requirement there. But
You're using what works for you, and that's great. And yeah, you can use QuickBooks for some things, and I don't use QuickBooks for my billing to bill out to my customers. I use a different program.
Yeah.
The QuickBooks
will
is
do it.
Right, it will do it. And I used it at first, and it's like, I don't like this, and so I know I have this other program. The bad thing about QuickBooks is there's a new version every year, and after so many years, they don't support the old version, so you just need to plan on $200 a year is going to go out if you use QuickBooks.
Yeah.
I have to buy it every year because one of my clients will buy the newest version, and then I have to have the newest version.
Okay, yeah.
Your version will last you 3 or 4 years,
Oh.
and then they'll quit supporting it, and you'll have to go to one of the new ones. But I would say if you're budgeting around $200 a year.
QuickBooks does some neat stuff too with automatically importing transactions from our bank.
Yes, that
And,
works out nice.
that's
So you have a running balance all the time.
well, you do. You can do transactions in QuickBooks and have them uploaded to the bank, and you can have it download all of your transactions from the bank. So when I go there, I don't actually import. I don't record expenses individually. I spend everything on one credit card and then download the transactions, and then I'm able to separate my expenses into all the different expense categories in bulk. Really, really nice.
And what you're seeing, Larry, is the difference here between the young and the old. My younger clients do exactly what Andrew does. They import from the bank, they import from your credit card. I'm 50. I want to touch the receipt. I want to type it in. I want to know where it's filed or scanned.
Yeah.
And I don't want to import anything from anywhere.
Yeah.
So, and it's just that, and it's generational. And both systems work, but this I see a lot more with my younger clients. Everything they just pull in from online is quite brilliant, and I'm a little jealous of them. But so you can do that as much as you like.
But I think that we have to be telling ourselves as 50-year-olds is that Yes, it hurts to learn something new, but it's going to save you so much time. So if you can just say, okay, my goal this year is just to learn how to import, like you just said.
Yeah, right.
So give yourself some time, you know,
Yeah.
but set a goal to get that done.
That's
You know,
so- that's so true.
Small business administration, they have to lessons.
Oh,
There's a lot of
That was just
QuickBooks
recently,
classes.
yeah, and they're free.
There's a lot of
I don't think it's bringing them locally, so just kind of regionally and where it would be, there's quick classes to say it's supposed to be, we're told
Well,
that
you know,
free, all businesses.
We'll contact SCORE and ask if they can let me do it.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're wonderful.
Yeah.
Stores, and then we'll just invite all the other chambers to announce it too.
Sure.
So when you're asking yourself, do I need an outside bookkeeper? Am I at the point where I need an outside bookkeeper? Track, how long does it take me to do this bookwork per month? Okay, if I went and worked in my store on a project, took pictures, sold a flower arrangement, would I make enough to pay this bookkeeper and have money left over? For about 80% of self-employeds, it comes out yes. Okay? And then it's finding someone. If you decide you need someone, I do have names of some freelance bookkeepers that I would trust in my home, and I can give you those names if you're interested. Okay, so that's just something to consider. There's probably a lot of them in Readly, or you can ask your personal CPA or tax preparer, do you have some people, sometimes the people that work in their office will do it on the side, and that's fine too. There's some very, very good accountants here in Readly. In fact, I'm shocked to even be standing here. Well-known, long-term, wonderful firms, and so take advantage of your own CPA firm and let them help you and recommend somebody. If you get somebody from your CPA firm, they're already going to know how they work with them. They'll already have a relationship. It's only going to make your transition easier. Okay. All right. So that is, do I need a bookkeeper? The other thing is, when I talked about, having that receipt that I threw away, that $10 receipt that ended up costing me $15 because I didn't deduct it, okay? You need to find a way to deal with those kind of issues, the things that I'm paying cash for, the money that goes out that's business related that I'm not tracking, and find a way that works for you. Okay? And the example I'm going to give you is that I have a tile setter client. And every Monday, his wife gave him, well, every day she gave him $40, okay? And that was for him to buy lunch with, to buy drinks for his workers, to buy a small tool if he needed one. That was his spending money for the day. Most of the items that he spent that $40 on were business related, and he never brought a receipt on, okay? $40 a day, $200 a week, that's a lot of deductions he wasn't getting. And him and his wife were fighting about it. And then when it came time to pay the taxes, and there was taxes owed, and he hadn't turned in the receipts, then we had a full-on war, okay? Yeah. And so they came in, and I told them, okay, first of all, you two need to go home and try to remember what it was you liked about each other when you got married, because you don't have enough money to get a divorce. I can tell you that right now. If you're very supporting one household, you can't support two. So go home and find out what it is you like about each other. Then I worked with the husband, and we came up, what's the minimum you can give me every day to make, to help us deduct these items, these receipts that you're throwing away. So him and I came up with a way. John owes me 5 minutes every day in his driveway. Okay? So John has a little calendar book that I gave him that sits on the seat of the truck. And when he pulls in the driveway, he's not allowed to go in the house until he's picked up that calendar book and written down where he spent his $40 for that day.
So a log, is that a viable substitute for?
It's a viable substitute if you have some of the receipts. Okay, a calendar, I've been to several audits. A calendar is always, whether it's on your phone or whether it's on paper. John is old like me, so he has a paper calendar. A lot of people use their phones now. There's a lot of apps to track expenses every day when you're out and about. You can take a picture of the receipt, and then you can put it in that app, what you spent. It works great for mileage also, business mileage, when you're going somewhere for business. Okay. So you have those phones in your hand all the time? Use them. Do you use your iPhone too? Good. Beautiful. It's a tool for your business. Okay. It's not just a tool for Facebook and Instagram. Okay. So, if it's 5 minutes on your phone versus 5 minutes in the car like John does, that's great. John also has 12 vanilla envelopes. The mail ladies here, for those of you that are. John also has 12 manila envelopes. I give him 12 every year when he gets his taxes done. And he puts one per month under the seat of his truck, and he puts receipts in it. And then on the last day of the month, he hands it to his wife. Okay, so we have those available if we need them. He has the backup, not for 100% of his payouts all day for his $40, but we have part of the receipts, and we have everything written down, how he spent his $40 in his logbook. That gives him a lot of deductions. Okay. And now they don't fight. Everybody's happy. I'm not griping at John. The wife's not griping at John. John's paying less tax. But we had to find a way that worked for him and works for me. Okay, so if your accountant's telling you something to do and it's just not working, try something else. This isn't working for me. Let's find another method. Okay, let's try something else. How else can we do this that I will actually do? Okay, if you've been given a bookkeeping system or an accounting system and you're not doing it, chances are it's not the right system for you. Come up with something else. Come up with something else. Whether it be an outside bookkeeper, a phone app, a calendar book, something. Okay, but don't cheat yourself out of those deductions. Overlooked deductions. I brought you an auto handout. The standard mileage rate is at the bottom of the blue sheet. It is 56 cents a mile for 2014. For every 2 miles you drive for business, that is $1 deduction. Okay? And self-employed, if you have a wife that has, or a husband that has a W-2 form, they take you through the first brackets. So you're probably getting taxed at 28% federal, plus 15% self-employment tax, plus the state. You could be paying 50 cents on the dollar in tax. So if you are not tracking that mileage, then you are throwing money away once again. Okay? Now, do I expect an odometer reading every time you leave the house and every time you get back? No. I live in the real world too. I don't write down my odometer readings every time that I leave the house. Okay? But I do write it down periodically. I do keep my service records so I know when my car is serviced, and I do write down Fresno, 50 miles, I went to Office Depot, or if it's a business lunch, I write who I met with, where we had lunch, what we discussed. Once again, I'm old, I have the paper calendar, that works for me. Use your phone. I went to, to a floral supply. I went to a photography supply. I went to buy a frame. I went to look at somebody else's pictures. I went to look at how somebody else's store was laid out for you, Larry. Maybe you just took a drive and said, oh, you saw an independent store, you went in to see what their layout was. Maybe you went to Kingsburg to the Bling Queen. Say, hey, I'm going to look at their layout, and see what they're doing, So that's fine. But write down, I drove 26 miles today for business. Okay, 26 miles is $13 write-off for using the standard mileage rate. You just saved yourself $13 by taking less than a minute to write that down or type it in.
Or you reduce your income base.
Exactly. You've taken a deduction.
What about if your car is multi-use, business and personal?
Many cars are multi-use. That's an excellent question, Julie. And
Lori.
I'm sorry. No,
She's Julie.
Oh, you're Julie. I'm sorry, Lori. I apologize. It's okay. Lori. Okay. Lori has asked if it's okay if your car is multi-use. Absolutely, yes. On this form, when somebody brings me this form, I ask them just to fill in these first items here generally, because they give me an odometer reading at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. Maybe you drove 18,000 miles for the year, so I can calculate that. But then you tell me how many of those were business miles, and maybe those are 5,000. And you still use the standard mileage rate, and it's fine if you have to go to the grocery store and other places too. Absolutely, most vehicles are business and personal if that person is self-employed. Yeah. But and when you drive and you're at home, so you're probably coming into town to go to the bank. You might you're coming into town to see your CPA.
You make deliveries.
You make deliveries, all of that. Okay. That standard mileage rate does not include interest on your car loan or D&B fees, the registration fees on your car. So you will have to give your CPA those separately. Okay. That 56 cents a mile includes depreciation, repair, gas, insurance. Does not include interest on a car loan or the D&B fees. That will be an additional deduction.
Okay. How do you figure that out, that part of it, the vehicle expenses, when it is a multi-use title? half and half?
No, let's say we said you drove your car 18,000 miles, and you've added up how many business miles you had, and they were 9,000. So your vehicle was half business.
Okay.
Okay. So half of the DMV
Okay,
fees are going to be a deduction. It's just a percentage. Okay. All right. Business.
One question.
Yes, sir.
The date placed in service?
And it's just when you bought the car.
Oh, when you bought
Or
the
maybe you had the car and you just opened your business on January 1st. That would be the date that your car went into service. So the date that it became a business vehicle.
Oh.
And that's important because your depreciation starts on that date, right?
Yes, sir. Okay. Another one that's overlooked is business use of home. Lori has her business run out of her home, so obviously a good portion of her business is used, or a good portion of her home is used for business. A lot of accountants and a lot of people used to shy away from that. Say, oh, it's an automatic audit. That is not true. That is not true. Her business is run out of her home. It is not an automatic audit.
Percentage of what square footage?
Square footage, okay. Lori said she takes a percentage of square footage on her home. She's absolutely correct. So she takes that same percentage of her PG&E bill, her housekeeper, the insurance on her house. That same percentage applies in a lot of areas. Okay. And now there is a simplified method that just came out last year. If you don't want to track all that stuff for your home, you can just take $5 a square foot. It's simple, it's audited less, it's not so scary. It's a very easy option. A lot of times it's comparable if you're just using that small part of your office.
$5.
The last item that I brought for you is regarding 1099 forms. If somebody is providing a service to your business, including your CPA, including an attorney, including your janitor for your building, if you pay them over $600 a year, they are supposed to get a 1099 form at the end of the year. It's very important. Back in the day, it was a $50 penalty if you didn't send it. If my clients brought me their stuff, I prepared the 1099s, but I didn't chase them down. That is different now, and that is explained on the back side of this page. If you are audited and you have paid me $1,500 to do your tax return, but you did not send me a 1099, the IRS can say, you can't deduct that $1,500. And you say, but I have a receipt and I have a canceled check. And they say, it doesn't matter. You didn't send a 1099, you don't get to deduct it. Okay. That is huge. That is huge.
You know, I see that you're not supposed to send 1099s to corporations. We are a corporation, and people still send that 1099.
Because they're scared, and that's okay, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt a thing if they send it to you. Okay. So if they send you a 1099 and you've never heard of the people before, or they're using your wrong ID number, then you will want to check back with them. If they send you a 1099 and you're a corporation, it's not going to hurt a thing.
Okay. So we don't have to back that out.
No, sir.
Because they've already counted it as revenue.
Right, it's already in
It
there.
shows up in our books.
Exactly.
Not
You've already reported that income. Where this gets to be a huge issue, in case anybody that's watching is a farmer or somebody that pays enormous amounts for contract labor. If you have a labor contractor and you're paying them $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, $900,000 a year, and you don't send them a 1099, and the IRS comes in and disallows that much contract labor, you're looking at a huge tax bill, and you have no argument. That is the importance of 1099s. If you rent the space where your store is, Larry, and you don't send a 1099 to your landlord at the end of the year, they're not a corporation, the IRS could theoretically come in and say, you cannot deduct that thing. Okay. In my office, Diane, my bookkeeper, prepares thousands of 1099s, God bless her, every year. And we prepare 1099s very, very inexpensively, anywhere from $25 to $40 for all of them, however many you bring in. We charge very little for that. And the reason is because I want my clients to do it. I want them to bring me the information. I want to prepare those to protect them. I don't want them to say, oh, I'm not going to have those done because it costs $500 to get those done. Okay? I don't want that. I want my clients to do the 1099s. It's just crazy not to. It's crazy not to. You need those deductions. You earned those deductions. You paid those expenses. So protect yourself and do your 1099s. You can do them yourself. You can have your accountant do them. Ask them how much they charge. I bet it's not very much. If you can hire an independent bookkeeper to come in, they can probably do them for you too, but don't skip out. Very, very important. So look over that 1099 sheet. If you throw all the other sheets away, that's fine. Don't throw the orange sheet away. Don't throw the orange sheet away. It's very important. I'm going to leave a few copies of these here, so if there's anybody that wasn't able to come today that would like these worksheets to look at, they can stop by and see Andrew and get a copy of those.
Yeah, I'll probably take them.
Okay, that's fine.
There's some that couldn't make.
Beautiful. Drop them off, whatever, if they're interested. They can take these same worksheets. These aren't copyrighted or anything. I didn't steal them. They can take them to their accountant, and they can say I was crazy and whatever. But these, I think, are issues that are very critical to business owners. Okay. One thing this will be the last thing probably. There was an expense that you could buy, farmers, everybody could buy $500,000 worth of equipment and write it off the first year. It's called Section 179 Depreciation.
Mm-hmm.
So farmers would come in, or business owners would come in November, and they would say, this is how much I've earned so far, what should I do? And I'd say, go buy a truck, go buy a tractor, go buy that machine that you need for your business, go buy a new camera, go buy new computers, spend your money, save some taxes, we'll write it all off in 1 year. That expired at the end of 2013 and has not been renewed yet. Okay? Hiblinger, the expert on these things from Washington, D.C., keeps saying it's going to pass, they're going to extend it, but it's not going to happen until the lame duck session after the election.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very scary right now. I really can't tax plan for anybody right now. But that's something to keep your eyes on and hope that that does pass. Kiplinger usually is correct, but just know that if you're one of those people that goes in and tax plans and buys a lot of stuff at the end of the year, a new vehicle or whatever, as of today, that option is not available.
So wait until end of November or December, make sure
Exactly.
it passes, and then make the purchase.
Exactly. So
I'm not sure if you're with depreciating out over
right. The alternative is to spread it out over 5 to 7 years, depending on the item. And so if that's okay with you and your bottom line is okay, that's fine. The other thing is self-employed. You should be meeting with your accountant in November or the early December and saying, hey, where am I at? You know, because there are things that you can do before the end of the year to help your bottom line and to pay less tax. And believe me, if you're self-employed, you're already paying a lot. You need to be in survival mode. I'm trying to keep this business open. I'm trying to survive. Take an hour and meet with your accountant. If you have a loss for the year, maybe not so much. But if you have a profit at the end of the year, meet with them. Now, the biggest reason people don't meet with their accountant is because their books aren't in order. Well, I don't know where I'm at. I have this big pile. And so we've come full circle here, folks. We're right back to get a bookkeeping system, get a bookkeeper, get a handle on your bookkeeping. That is your tax saving strategy, because if your books are up to date and you don't have that pile, you can go in November with a flash drive or with a report or with a spreadsheet or with your system. You don't even have to meet with your accountant. You can drop it off and say, hey, call me if I have a problem and tell me what I should do. You can do that.
Well, not to mention the fact that if you have that data to look at every month, you can make managerial accounting decisions. You can make operational day-to-day, month decisions about expense categories, setting revenue targets, things like that.
Exactly. Absolutely a good point. And Andy's absolutely right, except that 90% of us don't make managerial decisions. Don't look at our bottom line, because we can't. We look at what's in the bank and what's in the cash register and say, can I take some money for myself this month, So, in a wonderful and real world, like did you say when you grew up you wanted to be Andrew? I do too now. Yes, I want to live in that world. I want to live in that world where it's like, well, am I going to pay the tuition or not this month, for my child? But in a wonderful world, yes, it works that way, and we should all work that way. But as a minimum, have your books up to date. Have a bottom line that you can look at compared to last year. Because for some of us, there comes to be, and if we don't know that, and we go more into debt and more into debt and more into debt because of that. I'd love for everybody to stay in business, but if you don't know where you're at, you're not going to be able to know that you need to grow it, you need to change something, you need to lay somebody off, you need to hire somebody. And until we know where our books are at, then, so I'm not going to say get a CPA. If you got a tax preparer, you go to H&R Block, I'm cool with that. just make sure what you take to H&R Block is some good stuff, okay, and that you're taking advantage of all your deductions. It's just so important. Okay, don't throw your money away. You work too hard for it as self-employed. Okay. I think that's all I have, Barb.
All right.
Great. And does anybody have any questions? I know you asked several as we went through it. In fact, I'll stay if anybody has any questions.
You know, one question. I know we talked about QuickBooks, and I know that is the industry standard for small business accounting. Are there any other packages, anything new, anything that's kind of a most viable alternative that you see aside from the spreadsheet?
I've had some people use Peachtree. They hated it. I hated it. I don't think so. I really don't. It's just the simplest, and the way that you know that QuickBooks is the best is that it's sold at Costco. If something is good, it's sold at Costco. You know, if something is worth having, it's at Costco. When those commercials come on late night TV and they want you to buy a Ninja blender, don't buy it when it's on TV. Wait till it gets to Costco. Once it gets to Costco, you know it's good. You know it's good. Costco does all the research for you. Okay? So my son would say, Mom, we need that. You know, late night TV, we need to have that. If they get it at Costco Center, we'll be the first ones in there to buy it because then you know. So I would say since Costco carries QuickBooks, I would say that that's probably going to be your best bet. Maybe not for everybody, but for those businesses. That's an excellent question. There used to be a lot more cheaper.
There's a Quicken also, right?
There's Quicken also. That's more for personal, for your individual.
Oh, okay.
And it works. It's made by the
Okay.
And the company is into it. They also make my tax program called the CERT, which is hideously expensive, but it's the best one out there. And so you know, they are a huge conglomerate. But I find that Quicken. I do have people that use Quicken, but it's more for individuals. And I do have people that bring in that do not have a business and bring in their information on Quicken, so we can get their medical, their charitable deductions, all those kind of things, and they keep that on Quicken. It's quite lovely. That's it. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming. I know your time is so precious as self-employed, and I really appreciate you spending it here.
Thanks, Teresa.
Right down the street, right by H&R Block. H&R Block. Next door.
What's my